welcome to my channel. Today I thought I would discuss my birth vlog. I've got my trusty notes here. I think there's about 4 pages worth of notes that I provided to my midwives. So the important thing I guess to know is that my midwives didn't look at my birth notes until I was in the delivery suite. So for my birth story or my birthing experience, I was induced. So I was induced on the 3rd of July. That's Isla. She is in her Moses basket next to me. But what she does is she grizzles a little bit and then goes back to sleep. So fingers crossed she does that this time. So I was induced on the 3rd of July, but I had Isla on the 6th of July. So the induction process was quite long for me, and then my active labour was short. So I was really fortunate that I didn't have a really long active labour. So I was really lucky in that regard. So what I can do is, if anyone wants the template that I kind of use as a guide, you can let me know in the comments and I can send it over to you. But really I just looked up on Pinterest or on Google just birth plan, and so many of them come up, and you can just use them as a guide, and you can use all different ones and kind of create your own. But obviously just here looks really basic, so I just tried to make it as easy as possible for the midwives to look at. So yeah, as I mentioned, my midwife didn't look at my birth plan, or what I like to call a birth guide, until I was actually in the delivery suite. So that was once my waters broke and once I was 4 centimeters dilated. So basically at the start I just provided my full name, my partner's name, and Isla's expected due date, which was the 6th of July 2023, and that was actually her birthday, so that's pretty cool. Pardon me, I provided the hospital name obviously, and then I also noted, had a section that says please note that I. So in this section I tried to ensure that I kind of gave them the important details up front. So there were 4 dot points for me. So the first one was that I had been on aspirin every single day leading up to the birth of Isla, due to being low in a hormone called PAP-A, which is a hormone that helps with her growth. So I also had to have additional growth scans. The dot point 2 was that my mother had preeclampsia in her pregnancy with me. So that was something that if I wasn't already on aspirin, they would have put me on aspirin because of that. Not sure really why. The third was that I had been put on vaginal tablets for 4 weeks to help keep my cervix closed, as I had bleeding and they were monitoring it. So they actually realised that I had cells growing outside of my cervix as well as inside, which doesn't usually happen. It didn't obviously affect anything, but just something that I thought I would add in there just in case they did any cervical examinations and noticed a difference. And then I also wrote on the 4th dot point that our baby had a left kidney that wasn't functioning as it should. So to see notes in my other documents for further information, as we would need additional testing once she was born. I just realised I kept doing this. I do this when I'm not even holding Isla. It's just instinct just to keep rocking, because I'm always rocking her. So sorry if I keep swaying and making you dizzy when you're watching this. So the next stage was that I wrote what my delivery, or how I wanted my delivery to be. So I just wrote vaginal, and I wrote water birth if possible. So I wrote during labour I'd like, and then I wrote several dot points. So these were music to be played, so that I would provide that. The lights dimmed. Hey. Fairy lights and battery candles that I would provide. I also had a galaxy light plugged in. I do have a YouTube video on what I packed in my labour bag, so I can link that in the description as well. A diffuser, so to remove the clinical smell. So I was a bit worried that I'd not feel very comfortable if my delivery suite smelled very clinical. Good girl. As few interruptions as possible, the light being dimmed and being as dark as possible, and then as a few vaginal examinations as possible. I'm pretty sure I only had like 3 checks to see how dilated I was, or maybe even just 2. I think I definitely had like a check obviously when I was being induced, because they had to see if my cervix was completely open. But after that it was, yeah, when I was 4 centimeters, or no, when I was 3 centimeters, 4 centimeters actually, and then yeah, 9 centimeters. So I had 3 checks for dilation. So not as many as I thought. I'm not sure why, but I thought that they'd be checking you all the time. I guess they don't want to be intrusive if they don't need to be. I've actually got Isla smiling beside me. She's tooting, so it's windy smiles here. And she's got her eyes shut, so hopefully I can keep going. I did say that I wanted not to be told how many centimeters dilated I was, which I do explain in one of my videos as well, in my labour video, because I didn't want to be disheartened. And as I mentioned in that video, when I was told that I was only 3 centimeters after a day and a half to 2 days of kind of having contractions every 2 minutes because of being induced, when I was told I was only 3 centimeters, it was really disheartening. And I kind of lost it a little bit, which I explained in that video. But then when I was told I was 9 centimeters dilated, obviously that was really positive, and I wasn't expecting that because it went really quickly, my active labour. So we thought that I'd be only 5 to 6 centimeters, and I was 9 centimeters. So that was a positive. So yeah, I can see the pros and cons of being told how many centimeters dilated you are. My partner, I said that I want my partner to be able to film or take pictures, and that I wanted to be able to video call during my labour should I want to speak to my family based in Australia. So again, just additional information that they probably didn't need to know, but that I added in there. I said that I was comfortable with interns and students assisting me once introduced to them and told what their role and line of study was. And that's that. I also let them know, where are we? Yes, that's perfect. So I said that I wanted my partner to obviously be present the entire time, to stay hydrated with clear liquids and ice dips, and to avoid drips where possible. I was put on a drip, which it was fine. I don't know why I said I wanted to avoid a drip, because it just meant that I stayed really hydrated, and it actually meant that my first wee after birth didn't sting, which I was actually really worried about. And I know a lot of people, pregnant women are a bit wary of. And I had bought like perineal spray and like a bottle that you put water in and to spray to as you're weeing to dilute it, and I didn't have to use any of that. So I was really fortunate. And then I said that I'd like to eat and drink as approved by my doctor. The next element of the birth guide that I created was what I'd like to spend the first stage of labour. So being motivated to move around and standing and trying different positions. I wanted to be able to go in the shower, in the bathtub, little interruptions as possible, and using natural pain relief, so like water, the TENS machine, and position changes. So unfortunately with the induction, I had that, and my contractions started at 9 p.m. and 9 p.m. are actually the end of visiting hours. So my partner had to leave basically once my contractions from the induction started. So I had basically 12 hours without his assistance. So he came back 9 a.m. the next morning and was able to help me with all of that as well. But basically, yeah, on my own, I was just trying to breathe through them, and they gave me paracetamol, which I do explain in another video, actually made me feel worse. And after speaking to other mums, they felt worse after it as well, and some people actually felt sick after having paracetamol. Obviously that's not to put anyone off. Obviously you want to try that pain relief like paracetamol when you can, and just see how it makes you feel, and if it does make you feel better. But that was just my experience, and I know that some other mums have experienced that as well, which I wasn't expecting, because I have paracetamol now, and I've had paracetamol throughout my life, and I've been fine on it. So that was interesting. I said I'd like to avoid an enema, a urinary catheter, and an IV unless I'm dehydrated, which I had to have a drip. I didn't have to have a catheter, which was good. I also said if in terms of labour augmentation, so performed only if baby is in distress. First attempted by natural methods such as nipple stimulation, and after natural methods used, I could try stretch and sweeps, then rupture of the membranes as a last resort, again only if required. So I kind of wanted to be able to, release my waters or have my waters break naturally where possible. And then for pain relief, again, I've just said breathing techniques. So just wanted to try and do natural pain relief first. So breathing techniques, distraction, water therapy, and massage. I had meditation, reflexology, which I didn't do. The TENS machine I did do, but I was too far gone into labour, and my partner and I hadn't actually tested the TENS machine out beforehand. So I'd definitely recommend, if you want to use the TENS machine in labour, to use it or give it a practice run before you're in labour, just so you know the different settings and how it works. Gas and air, I said I was happy to have this, as if I feel nauseous from it, then I can easily stop and the nausea will go. Demerol or pethidine as a secondary resort once all natural methods are used and gas has been tried. And then I had walking epidural and standard epidural. So walking epidural would mean that I would be able to walk or still have some movement and a level of feeling. But in the standard epidural, I said if all natural remedies are exhausted and Demerol used and I'm struggling with pain. So I did end up having a epidural for quite a few reasons, and was recommended it by my midwife at a certain point. So during delivery, I said I would like to be open to different positions. So potentially different positions in the bath, be in a shower, be on my hands and knees facing the back of the bed, using the birthing ball, use people for leg support, and use foot pedals for support. So I did all of these, except I didn't have a bath, and I tried the shower for like 2 minutes, but then the drain in the room that I was in wasn't draining properly. So it was like overflowing, so I didn't want to like flood the room, so we stopped doing that really quickly. As the baby is delivered, I would like to, I said, breathe and push, no tense movements. Have the option to use a mirror to see the baby crown, touch the head as it crowns, avoid forceps usage, avoid vacuum extraction, let my partner catch or pull the baby out if doable, and the umbilical cord to be cut by my partner. So in terms of, I was breathing and I was pushing, because I had the epidural, it's quite difficult for me to obviously feel the contractions and to feel like how I was pushing, but my midwife guided me through that. And I think that's something that you kind of need to remember, is once you have an epidural, you can't really feel, so it does make pushing a little bit harder. But yeah, my midwife and my partner helped me through that. We didn't use a mirror to see. My partner was looking down there, so all good. Touch the head as it crowns. I didn't do that. I didn't have to have forceps, but I did have a ventouse, which is basically kind of like a plunger that attaches to the baby's head, and as you pull, the doctors can push the baby out, so you get assisted there. And I had a couple of stitches. I was really fortunate, it wasn't anything too serious. Immediately after delivery, I would like delayed cord clamping, which they did, and the umbilical cord to be cut by my partner, which he did, to donate the cord, and to be given pain relief to deliver the placenta, which happened. I didn't feel them even do the needle because obviously I had an epidural, and to ask if myself and my partner to see the placenta before it was discarded. So I wasn't shown it, but I did see it. They just didn't hold it up really big for me to see. I also had a section about if I had a C-section, what I would like. So basically I said time for myself and my partner to weigh up the risks, a second opinion if time allows it, to make sure all our other options have been exhausted, for my partner to remain with me the entire time throughout the C-section, the screen to be lowered so myself and my partner can be told when to watch the baby come out if we wish to, and my hands to be left free for my partner to be able to hold me, also I can touch the baby, and my partner to hold the baby as soon as possible. And then I just said I would like to hold the baby immediately after delivery when possible, and then that I would like to breastfeed. So I just said as soon as possible after delivery I'd like to breastfeed, receive assistance from a lactation specialist before leaving the hospital. And at the Royal, they were really, I had a midwife basically the day I delivered Isla guiding me on breastfeeding and how to collect colostrum, and it was really good. I was knackered, but it was great to be taught that, and I also made sure that I spoke to the midwives before leaving the hospital about any questions that we had about breastfeeding, because we were just a bit worried that she wasn't getting enough. But then we realised that obviously she was only on colostrum because my milk hadn't come in yet. But yeah, so that would just, if you have any questions, make sure you ask before you leave the hospital, and then you get a list of numbers to call once you leave the hospital if you have further questions. So just definitely make sure that you call those numbers. Do not be afraid to call them. They're people and volunteers and specialists. They're there for a reason, and they do want to help. And I had a half an hour lengthy conversation with an NCT. When the NCT helpline, I had a half an hour conversation about breastfeeding when Isla stopped latching, and it was really beneficial and made me feel so much better. And I even had a Zoom call with the NCT breastfeeding consultationist as well. So the help is out there, not just NCT specific, but there's so many numbers. You actually get a list or a letter before you leave the hospital of all these different numbers of support. So make sure you definitely call them, and don't be worried about calling them, because they're there to help you. I said that in terms of baby's medical examination, I'd like myself and my partner to always be present, given only after we've bonded, to include a hearing screen test, and to be told of any vaccinations available at the time. And I said that I definitely wanted the vitamin injection given to our baby. I did say that I didn't want formula to be given or a pacifier, because I wanted that to be a decision my partner and I made together. We've not yet given Isla formula. I'm sure we will at some point if needed, and she has had a dummy on the odd occasion when she's needed that extra comfort when she's been overtired, and we found that it's really helped her. In terms of the baby's first bath, we just said that myself and my partner would like assistance. We didn't give her a bath when she was at hospital. We actually gave her a bath, I think it was like a week after she was born. So it was just my partner and I, and she loves a bath. In terms of feeding baby, so I just said only with breast milk, on demand and cluster feeding, and to be guided with the help of a lactation specialist. I said that I would like Isla in the room at all times and may need assistance if needing a rest, obviously because of visiting hours and that kind of thing. I said I'd like my partner to have unlimited visiting, he was only allowed to visit from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m, apart from when I was in the delivery suite, and to have the opportunity to stay in my room, which he only did when I was in the delivery suite. So after birth, I said I'd like to stay in hospital for as long as possible, which we were there for, I can't even remember. I'm not sure. Was it a day? I think I was there overnight. I was there overnight, and then we left the next day at 9 p.m, I think. And then I just said if my baby is not well, I'd like, and so I said my partner and I to accompany her to the NICU to breastfeed or provide pumped breast milk, and to hold her whenever possible. So I do hope listening to what my birth plan was helps someone. I don't think I'd ever call it a birth plan, and I'm going to stop calling it a birth plan from here on out, because I really don't think that there's ever been a birth plan that has ever gone exactly how someone wants it to go. So I think calling it a birth guide is much better, and it's exactly that. It's guidance so that your midwife knows your preferences and understands you a little bit better, because when you're in the midst of it, you kind of can't go through all those, those details like you would when you're in a clear mind writing it out on here for them to see. Like I said, I only had a midwife look at my birth guide when I was in the delivery suite, and by then you kind of, further along. It's not like you're really clear-minded, and if you're like me and had an induction, you're knackered if your induction took really, really long beforehand to kind of get to a point where you could go into the delivery suite, and if you've been in hospital for a while as well. So yeah, I think it's really important to have that birth guide just to ensure that you do your research. And when you look at templates online, if you just put it in Google or put it in Pinterest, birth plans or birth guides, all different templates will come up. And I just think it's brilliant to look at quite a few, just even if it's 3 or 4, just to get an understanding of what kind of questions you should be asking yourself and jotting down on this document. I printed off 3 birth plans, one for myself, one for my partner, and one for the midwives. But yeah, I had all of them in my folder. I'd also recommend, yeah, getting a folder, something like this. It's not pretty. I saw someone with a really nice birth kind of folder with all their documents in, but this trusty one just had every single thing that I could ever need, or any letter that I've ever been given about Isla is in there. I've also got my red book. This is a red book that you get given once your baby's born, and you've got to give and bring to all of your appointments with baby. So it just says my personal child health record. So it's got all your child's details in. And I've even got my, Isla's birth certificate here, which we got. Apparently they used to do nice folders, but ever since COVID, they've kind of just given them in these little sheets. But yeah, so Isla's birth certificate, which we have done. So now she's a proper person, which is really exciting. But yeah, everything's just in that folder. So I'd recommend getting a folder just to put all your details, all your information in. So that's all in one place, and one less thing you have to worry about when you're pregnant or after pregnancy. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and like always, if you have any other topics you want me to cover, please let me know. And yeah, I'll make sure that I keep filming to try and help as many like-minded mums as possible. All right, bye.